and welcome. This was meant to be Friday's video, but I'm behind as always, apparently anymore. Anyway, what we are doing in this is the lyrical analysis of another Woody Guthrie song. It really puts through the idea of how greedy some men are. It's been called a number of things: the 1913 Massacre, the Ludlow Massacre, let's see, and the Italian Hall disaster. Was Ludlow the right one? Maybe Ludlow isn't the correct one. I might have that one incorrect. Maybe. No, I think it's the right one. Okay. Yeah. It's got, like I said, it's got a variety of names: Ludlow, 1913, Italian Hall disaster. It's based on a real, actual incident.
Me in 1913.
And yeah. Okay, that's fine. It ain't gonna play, whatever. I ain't worried about it. YouTube likes to be an ass because I like to use an ad blocker and I don't want to have to deal with ads. Whatever. Anymore. Anyway, let's look at the information they have here on Genius.com. Ludlow Massacre by Woody Guthrie was written and released as a single in 1944. It's written as a first-person account of the event. The Ludlow Massacre was a watershed in U.S. labor relations. So yeah, this is a song about workers versus bosses. Congress responded to public outcry by directing the House Committee on Mines and Mining to investigate the incident. The committee report, published in 1915, was influential in promoting child labor laws and an 8-hour workday. Are we sure this is the same one? Christmas Ball. I might be off on this one. Yeah, I got the wrong one with Ludlow. Okay, my bad. My bad. This is the one I think I'm wanting. The 1913 Massacre, also known as the Italian Hall disaster. The actual events still deals with labor, bosses, and workers. Again, still written by Woody Guthrie. But yeah, the song originally appeared on his album Struggle, which was an album of actual labor songs. It would be re-released in 1998 on Hard Traveling, the Ash recordings. Um, but yeah, the song is about the death of copper striking miners and their families in Calumet, Michigan on Christmas Eve 1913 in what is commonly known as the Italian Hall disaster. The name of the song, is 1913 Disaster. I think that's what I had pulled up here. Yeah, 1913. Anyway. Throughout the 40s, Guthrie recorded hundreds of discs for Moses Ash, founder of Folksways Records. One of them was this song, the 1913 Massacre. Pete Seeger said Guthrie was inspired to write the song after reading about the Italian Hall disaster. In the book We Are Many, the autobiography of Ella Ree Bloor, also known as Mother Bloor, a labor activist whose granddaughter was married to Hollywood actor and activist Will Geer. But yeah, a little background of where the song comes from. The actual disaster, the Italian Hall disaster as it was an actual tragedy that occurred on Wednesday, December the 24th, 1913, in Calumet, Michigan. 73 people, mostly striking mine workers and their families, were crushed to death in a stampede when someone falsely shouted fire at a crowded Christmas party. The Calumet and Hecla Mining Company was the single largest copper mining company in the copper country of northwest Michigan. And it's Kennesaw Peninsula. One of the longest strikes in the copper country occurred in 1913 and included all of Calumet and Hecla Mining Company mines. So yeah, the Western Federation of Miners first established a local in the area in 1908. Still, the WFM did not have a large enough membership to strike effectively until 1913. At the time, there were perhaps 15,000 men working in the mines, of which the Western Federation of Miners claimed 9,000 as its members. The membership voted in favor of demanding union recognition from management and asking for a conference with the employers to adjust wages, hours, and working conditions in the Copper District of Michigan. The membership also voted to declare a strike if management refused to grant a conference of concessions. After the vote was held, the Western Federation of Miners sent letters to the mines demanding the conference. The mine managers refused the request and the strike was called on July 23rd, 1913. The strike did not end until April of 1914. The mine miners and mines were still at a standoff during Christmas of 1913, in which the strike was at its 5-month mark. The actual massacre of 1913, for which the song is named, the Italian Hall Disaster, was on Christmas Eve. Many of the striking miners and their families had gathered for a holiday party sponsored by the Western Federation of Miners Ladies Auxiliary. The party was held on the second floor of Calumet's Italian Hall. A steep stairway was the only way to the second floor, only one entrance and exit. However, there was a poorly marked fire escape on one side of the building and ladders down the back of the building, which could only be reached by climbing through the windows. The incident began when over 400 people were in the room, and someone yelled, "Fire," although there was none. However, attendees panicked and rushed for the stairs. In the ensuing stampede, 73 people, including 59 children, were killed. The dead comprised 50 Finnish Americans, 13 Croats, 7 Slovenes, and 3 Italians. To date, there has been much debate over who cried fire and why. It is conjectured by some historians and the singer-songwriter Woody Guthrie that an anti-union ally of mine management called out fire to disrupt the party, to cause panic. But yeah, there were several investigations into the disaster. In the coroner's inquest, witnesses who did not speak English were forced to answer questions in English. Most witnesses were now not asked follow-up questions. It appears that many persons called to testify had not seen what happened. After 3 days, the coroner issued a ruling that did not give a cause of death. So yeah. Early in 1914, a subcommittee of the U.S. House of Representatives came to Copper Country to investigate the strike and took sworn testimony from witnesses for a full day on March the 7th, 1914. 20 witnesses testified under oath and were offered interpreters. 8 witnesses swore that the man who first raised the cry of fire was wearing a button on his coat for Citizens Alliance, an organization that opposed trade unions and strikes. So yeah, this gives you a gist of what happened, what the incident is about. So miners, their families are all put in jeopardy when it's thought maybe a anti-union ally of the bosses and the mines, the owners, yelled fire, causing a panic in the crowded and badly built Italian Hall during Christmas celebration. Yeah. There's a reason I try to tell you there needs to be regulations. There should be unions. Bosses don't give a damn about you. They never have. They never will. But the song starts out, take a trip with me to 1913, down to Michigan and the copper country. I'll take you to a place called Italian Hall, where the miners are having their big Christmas ball. I'll take you through a door and up a high stairs. Singing and dancing is heard everywhere. I'll let you shake hands with the people you see. Watch the kids dancing round the big Christmas tree. You talk about work and you talk about pay. They tell you they make less than $1 a day. Working their copper claims, risking their lives. So it's fun to spend Christmas with their childrens and wives. A little girl sits down by the Christmas tree lights to play with the piano, so you have to be quiet. To watch all the fuss, you don't realize the copper boss's scabs. They are waiting outside. And one of them scabs puts his head around the door, and he yells and he screams and he roars, there's a fire. A woman, she hollered, there's no such thing. Keep on with your party, there's no such a thing. But a few people moved. There was only a few. It's only them scabs and them thugs fooling you. A man grabbed his daughter and carried her down, but the scabs held the door and they couldn't get out. Then more people followed, 100 or more, till almost everyone left the floor. But the scabs, they kept on with their murderous joke. The children were smothering on the stairs by the door. Such a terrible sight I never did see. They carried them back to the big Christmas tree. Them scabs, they still laughed at their murderous spree. The children that died numbered 73. The piano plays a slow funeral tune, and the town is lit up by a cold Christmas moon. The women they cry, the men they mourn. See what your greed for the money has done. Yes, the women they cry, the men they mourn. See what your greed for the money has done. So yeah. We have working miners who go with their family to spend Christmas in this hall together. You know, they're on strike. They're trying to get a better life, better pay, better hours, better conditions. You know, everyone should have the right to push for this. Everyone. I don't care if you work at McDonald's. You have the right to be as a part of a union to fight for better wages, to fight for better hours, to fight for better conditions. Yeah, and I know there's going to be idiots who cry, oh, but it'll raise wages. Well, maybe the executives should lower their fucking pay, since that's where most of the goddamn money goes anyway. It ain't the actual workers, it's the executives. So when these idiots cry, oh, it'll raise the price, it won't if the executives fucking lower their pay. But no, they've got to have their millions and millions. They're executives. They're important. No! Anyway. Yeah. This song, I think, gives us a great historical aspect on just how much they wanted workers to shut their mouths and do what the bosses tell them. Honestly, the bosses should not be making that goddamn much in the first fucking place. You know, the workers should always come first. They're the ones that do the work. They're the ones who the profit is coming through their sweat, through the pain in their back. It's not the fucking executive. If it was up to an executive, they would do things as cheap as fucking possible. Look at Boeing right now. I mean, it's clear fucking proof. We're going right back to those conditions. Cause fuckers are like, the bosses have gotta make their big wage. Fuck yeah. It's so stupid. I don't give a goddamn who the boss is. I don't give a goddamn. You know, until the boss shows he's doing the majority of the goddamn fucking work, he don't deserve any higher pay than any other worker. You know, period. Period. It's just a fact. This is why I am very pro-worker, pro-union. Fuck the executives. Fuck the bosses. Fuck the owners. Those people are the monsters who would rather just have you be labor and shut your fucking mouth. But yeah, and we see even more because they talk about scabs. If you do not know, in this context, we're talking labor scabs. Individuals who will work even though there is a strike on, who will pass the strike lines and work for cheaper, for less. And honestly, that kind of shit should be banned. It really should be. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to show you all the song. I figured it'd be a great introduction. Sorry, I was kind of mixed up on the different things I had at the beginning there, but yeah. Okay, so the Ludlow Massacre apparently is very similar. Um, Annie Klimek, also known as Big Annie of Calumet, the lady in Guthrie's song who hollers, "There's no such a thing. Keep on with your party. There's no such a thing." Yeah, so that's who they're talking about. Annie Klimek, who's like, "No, there's no fire. Don't panic. Keep on with the party." And tried to keep everybody calm. But yeah. Um, Bloor tells a story of the Calumet strike and the Italian Hall disaster in the first half of the chapter called Massacre of the Innocents. She denotes the second half of the chapter in the events in Ludlow, Colorado in 1914, the subject of another Guthrie song, Ludlow Massacre. So that's why they kind of got mixed up for me. So apparently it's very similar with the topic here. But yeah. Um, a common story regarding the tragedy of the Italian Hall disaster states that the doors at the bottom of the Italian Hall's stairs opened inward. And so that's what they were talking about when the scabs were barring the doors. According to the story, when the fleeing partygoers reached the bottom of the stairs, they pressed up against the doors, which you usually think doors open outward, but no, they open inward. So you're pushing against them, you're trying to move them the wrong way, even though you're in a hurry trying to get out because you're in a panic. But yeah, it was in this panic that because the doors weren't opening, many people were crushed to death. However, all photos of the doors suggest a double set of doors with both sets opening outward. Steve Lato's book, Death's Door, The Truth Behind Michigan's Largest Mass Murder, pointed out that the doors were not mentioned as a contributing factor in the December 1913 coroner's inquest or the 1914 subcommittee hearing or any of the newspaper stories of the time. The book also included blueprints of the Italian Hall drawn by an architect showing the locations and configurations of the door, the staircase, and the landings. In her book, Mine Towns, Allison K. Hoagland alleged that there were two sets of doors opening onto a vestibule, that the outer doors opened outward, and there may have been a set of inner bifold doors. In support of this, Hoagland notes that a newspaper article at the time of its dedication mentioned safety features such as the ample main stairway, two fire escapes, and all doors open outward. she notes that the club had previously been cited for the predecessor building for having doors that opened inward. Further, she opines that the foreshortened stereopticon photo was impossible and misleading. And further notes that according to the pro-company Daily Morning Gazette, they opened outward. So again, there may have been some bias to try to mention how the doors work. And if you really want to talk about fake news, this was a time when fake news was everywhere. This was before the 1940s of Truman, where he put in place the Truman Doctrine, of which news should tell the truth to the best of its ability. This is before that, when fake news was really rampant. People want to talk about fake news now. That's because Reagan and his FCC took the Truman Doctrine to court multiple times to rip it to shreds. Yeah, Reagan was an evil fuck. He really was. But yeah. Point being, a lot of propagandized news in that point of time. Honestly, the only news you can look at with any fairness is probably 1950 or 45. We'll say 50 to 85. Those 35 years were a golden age for news. You know, we wanted to see truth in news. You had names you could trust, Cronkite and all these. But again, Reagan's fucking FCC. I don't see how people think, oh, he's the greatest president ever. No, he's a fucking menace. And he's made life the way it fucking is now. Many of the bullshit things that have gone on, you can trace to Reagan. Fuck Reagan. He is a horrid president. But yeah. Anyway. Now that we've discussed actual fake news and the fact that companies and owners and executives have always been against labor and just see them as a necessary evil. Hell, they'll do their fucking best to get rid of labor because they have the self-checkout machines in much of your grocery stores. I'm like, no, give me a checker. Give a person a fucking job. But no, companies don't want to do that. Drop executive pay. Make sure there's jobs and everything else for actual workers to help more people instead of just a greedy fucking few. Yeah, fuck the goddamn bosses and bullshit. Anyway, as I said, now that I went off on my rant on a number of things as it connects to labor, yeah, I'll end this episode here. Thank you all for watching. As always, educate thyself. Think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. I'll be putting my links and sources in the description box below the video. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.